Cyclone MMA. So, Paulo Costa versus Robert Whittaker is not happening, which freaking kind of sucks, because that's just a fight that makes sense. You know, Robert Whittaker's in that position right now. He's the second or third best middleweight on the planet. He's ranked number 2, I'd say. He was number 1, and then with Pereira winning, I imagine he probably got bumped down to 2. I haven't looked at the rankings, though. Paulo Costa, he's a beast. I know he has that loss to Adesanya, and then he had a loss to Vettori. The Vettori fight was a banger, an absolute war, one that he missed weight in, but still just brought it in the octagon. Then after that, he fought Luke Rockhold, and that was another really, really fun fight. A hilarious fight, too, that saw Luke Rockhold on top of Paulo Costa, just rubbing his blood into Paulo Costa's face. I wanted to see Whittaker versus Costa, because I always love seeing Bobby Knuckles in the octagon. He's one of my favorite fighters ever, and Paulo Costa's a fan favorite. The dude's so entertaining. The dude's hilarious, and he brings it and has really, really entertaining fights. I mean, Costa versus Romero was fireworks, so you can only imagine that Whittaker versus Costa would be the same thing. But the fight's off, and we have a little bit more insight as to why this fight's not happening, and it has to do with money. Now, according to Paulo Costa, he never officially accepted the fight with the UFC, the fight against Whittaker. He never told the UFC, "Hey, yes, I'm in." The UFC just kind of announced it apparently, and he, I guess, didn't, just kind of went along with it until now. But it's all a matter of money for him, because apparently he's making $65,000 to $70,000 per fight, plus his win bonus. So if he fights Whittaker and beats him, that doubles. But when you think about this guy and what he's done for the promotion, and seeing the star quality behind him, because he is one of the better named fighters in this UFC. He has a lot of hype behind him. He fought for a title. Now, it wasn't the prettiest title fight, but he's had a lot of UFC fights. He's a really, really good fighter. He's towards the upper echelon. He's a top 10 fighter. I think he's probably even a top 5. It's weird to think about him only making $65,000. I know that number is crazy for someone like me or you watching this video, but for a trained professional fighter in the largest, best promotion in mixed martial arts, $70,000 for a top 10 fighter just doesn't seem like a whole lot. I think Whittaker makes probably 10 times as much as that. Maybe not 10 times. We'll say 5 times as much as that. And that's probably just a take-home money, win or lose. And when you're making that much money, you can say, okay, that's cool. And the point he made is, I'm fine with that, but don't give me Robert Whittaker. Don't give me one of the best in the world to fight for, this kind of money. If you're giving me that kind of money, have me fight someone below the top 15. And I think that makes sense. I understand you want to make more, and I'm not the guy who's going to be fighting against the UFC to pay their fighters more, or telling fighters that they, make enough. I think that's a dispute that should be between the fighters and the UFC, and I have no idea about any of the back-end money or pay-per-view points or anything like that. I'm not the guy to ask, basically. But I would say that's underpaid. I'm a guy who watches a lot of baseball. I just witnessed Aaron Judge sign with my New York Yankees a 9-year deal worth $360 million. Aaron Judge got paid a lot of money, and that dude hits a baseball, and very rarely, actually, I've never seen it. I've never seen a fist fly at Aaron Judge before. So you have fighting, and you have a baseball player, and the baseball player makes so much more. And I know that's, we're comparing two very different things, but when you look at the UFC as the premier organization for fighting, and you look at the MLB for the premier organization for baseball, there should be some sort of overlap, and I do think that the UFC should pay more. Boxing's able to do it, but I'm not going to go into that. What I'm going to go into more is what to do with Paulo Costa and Robert Whittaker, because I still want to see these guys fight, and if we can't get the money done, we're going to have to sideline Paulo Costa. But what are we going to do with Robert Whittaker? I'm pitching you something right now. You guys listen up. Give Israel Adesanya some time off. I think he deserves the rematch against Alex Pereira. let's keep the champ busy, you know? Let's keep Alex Pereira busy. Let's go Robert Whittaker versus Alex Pereira. Have Adesanya take a longer camp to prepare for Alex Pereira, because Whittaker's already training for fight camp. Alex Pereira probably didn't take all that much damage in the Izzy fight. I know he was getting pieced up and losing the fight. But don't you think Whittaker deserves a title shot? I know he's gotten 2. Or I got a rematch against Adesanya after having to fight 2 or 3 times to get back there, and he lost. It was a close fight. But really, when you look at it, the matchup is what matters. Because I said this before the title fight. I'm saying it again. Robert Whittaker is a more difficult matchup for Alex Pereira than Israel Adesanya is. I think Robert Whittaker gives him issues. He's a new opponent. He's not used to the striking style. It's completely different than Israel Adesanya. Now, in the striking and specifically in the power, I still think Pereira has the edge, but there's the caveat of the wrestling. Robert Whittaker is a much better wrestler than Israel Adesanya, and I think he's more multifaceted. I think he has more ways to win a fight. I think he can grind him out. I think he can put him on his back and just put it to Alex Pereira. So this is a fight I want to see. I want to see Robert Whittaker versus Alex Pereira in early 2023. If Alex Pereira wins, fine. You just beat another former champion. You have a defense on your title reign. And now you fight Israel Adesanya once again. If Robert Whittaker wins, Adesanya versus Whittaker 3. It just makes sense. Why wait all this time? And I think, like I said, Adesanya deserves a title fight in his next fight. He shouldn't have to fight his way back up. He's been a premier champion. He's been fighting everybody. He's been active. He was winning the fight until he wasn't. I think this just makes sense. Whittaker versus Pereira. Have Adesanya fight the winner of it. You have your middleweight division figured out. Am I alone here? I feel like it makes sense. I want to see this fight. It's entertaining. It's a matchup that is good because Alex Pereira hasn't fought anyone with the wrestling pedigree of Whittaker. And not that Whittaker's like some master wrestler, but he mixes the martial arts. He is a mixed martial artist who is smart and knows how to win fights. And we saw him wrestle Adesanya a lot more in their rematch. And a lot of people picked Whittaker to win that fight. It ended up being really, really close despite what the commentary was saying. And I don't know. I just want to see it. I want to see Bobby Knuckles fight for the championship and hopefully win because I'm a big Bobby Knuckles fan. So yeah, what do you guys think? Whittaker, Pereira? Let's make it happen.